Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm Nate Roberts.
I am Rodney Godek, joining you once again. What is up, brother?
Not too much, my man, not too much. How are you doing?
Good. I took the day off work. It was snowing up in upstate New York.
Oh
We
yeah.
got several inches, heavy wet snow. Doing the driveway was slog.
Yeah, we closed the restaurant, but we kept both retail shops open and actually did okay at the retail level, but just way too much staff that would have to have driven in for the restaurant. So,
Yeah.
all right, we're back with another episode, episode 18. Um, we're going to be talking about Choose or Die and All My Friends Hate Me. Once again, if you have not seen these movies, you should, unless you don't care about spoilers, because we will be talking about major plot points as well as any twist endings and things like that.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with Choose or Die, correct?
Yeah, Choose or Die's up first, and let's just get right to it.
Mm-hmm.
After firing up a lost 80s survival horror game, a young coder unleashes a hidden curse that tears reality apart, forcing her to make terrifying decisions and face deadly consequences. So, um, I'd say that this was pretty accurate of a description, and it doesn't give away too much. The title,
Yeah.
Choose or Die, kind of says, hey, that's what's going to be happening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we get here? Written and directed by Toby Meekins, written by a couple other people. We get some nice audio cameo from Robert Englund, which was, I thought, pretty fun.
Well, yeah, they needed a way to convince people to watch this, and dangling Robert England as a reason, like, oh, I love Robert
I
England, I
love
love
Robert Englund.
Nightmare. So I want to
Uh,
see what he's doing in this. That'd be sweet. And then I'm sure everyone that watched this, that was excited for that, were very disappointed.
we're very disappointed by him not actually appearing in the movie.
Right.
But we get some voice. But that's okay. That's okay. Because what else do we get? We get so right in the first scene we have Eddie Marsan um, and his family. His son and wife are arguing in the other room,
Yeah.
and the wife goes so far as to disparage him a little bit because he walks in and doesn't say anything, and then he just like goes to his man cave, and she goes, and of course your father isn't gonna chime in. Um,
Yeah.
and he sits down and he cracks open a beer and he loads up this video game on like a old Atari. I think it was a 1050. So it's like the computer version, right? So there's like a keyboard and it takes tapes. It's like a tape deck instead of a disk
Right.
drive. Uh, and the game is called Cursed, right?
Cursor.
Cursor, and the
Curse with the greater than R, so it's like cursor.
cursor, yeah.
I
Um,
assume that's how that's meant to be said. I don't think I'm
yeah.
missing anything there. I think it's
No,
just
no,
cursor.
no. I think you got it. I think it's called Cursor.
It's cool for sure. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean with the black screen with the neon green graphics,
Right.
everything we get from Cursor on screen is pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, the way that the game is designed and the way it interacts with the user, font, and it's a choose your own adventure type thing.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but I saw some people comment how they would have appreciated if this was like an actual choose your own adventure show, sort of like how Bear Grylls has his own fucking choose your own adventure. Have you seen any of that on
N-
Netflix yet?
no, I haven't.
I don't know if it's just because the kids profile that I have for the boys, it loads on there. I don't know if it's come across my profile on Netflix, but there's a Bear Grylls out in the wild type thing where he has to bring medicine to this village, and he gets to a point. He's like, well, I could use this machete or I could use this rope, and you pick on the screen which one to do, like a choose your own
Oh,
adventure book. And then he does the activity, and sometimes what he does will lead to him dying or failing the mission, not really dying, but like, oh, we're not going to be able to get out of this now, and then you have to go back.
Okay.
Some people thought that that would be a cool twist to this, where you could pick the outcome of the thing.
Yeah, no, that would have been
And
awesome, and that would be a great like experiment, for
yeah,
Netflix to make.
it
So,
would not be a movie at that point. It would be an art piece. It would be
yeah,
completely different. We couldn't talk about it in the same context,
right.
but it would
Because
be
it would be
neat.
a game. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it
But
would have made this film interesting, which it wasn't.
just don't listen to him. This film was plenty interesting. Him. Uh,
So yeah, so the film starts where his name's Hal. He's starting this game and he's interacting with the first level. I can't remember the option, but it says more or less you're in a cave
right. You have
and
and
he's
you're having you're having a
you're having
drink.
a beverage.
Yeah.
Yeah, your beverage is emptied. Refill or leave cave, and he's like refill, and like it cracks a new beer, and it's on his table. And whatever is happening in the game is impacting his setting,
Right.
and then he's like, "Whoa!" and he starts playing with it. And they kind of hype it at this point to be sort of the supernatural presence that's going to interact in the environment as if it's some entity. But they kind of it's a misdirect, really, ultimately in the film.
Right.
And
Right.
I like that angle. I wish they would have driven that more so than they did because it sort of left it as like an ambiguous thing or the idea of a curse, which makes sense with the title of the game. But as far as what would be interesting as far as the characters interacting with something, it would have been better had it done more stuff like he picks up the bottle and it says one thing or it says look behind you, right?
Right.
And so he does, and then he looks back at the bottle and it's like fooled you, and I'm like, oh, that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I was entertained.
Yep. And then it says ears or tongue. And all I mean, you don't really know what that means, but you hear, obviously the wife and son kind of still fighting in the background.
Right.
And then it's asks again. Then it says choose or die. Then it asks again. Then it says choose or die. Then it says choose or die a million times on the screen. And
Mm-hmm.
he like runs out to see that, and like he's getting all this feedback in his ears, and he's like, because I
Yeah,
guess,
he
and
doesn't want to make a choice, but the game is starting to do its thing
yeah,
to
to
the
force you,
sound or
right?
whatever. Yeah,
So he says tongue, and he comes out to find the tongue of his son
yeah,
is in his wife's hand, and she's
yeah.
holding scissors in the other hand. Um, and then it cuts to 3 months later.
Right.
So that's all we
So
get to
that's
see
yeah.
from that crew. Um,
It was a fine start. I was not
yeah,
completely taken out. This was still kind of interesting. I mean, it was a little heavy-handed. Like I get it. He's sort of like a nerdy older guy that likes the nostalgic video games that he grew up with, and that's fine. It was a little overdone, but the premise was cool. This thing that's interacting. Oh, it ends with him having a choice to leave the game, but in order to leave the game, he has to make copies of the game. And so he distributes copies of the game. It says make copies, and like the screen shows his one copy of the game, and then it shows a bunch of arrows with the game going out. So the idea is that he has made copies in order to stop playing. He had to make copies and just put them out into the universe, and
right,
that's what he does. Now we're 3 months later to our main characters.
right. And we'll start with Iola Evans playing Kayla. She is like an overnight cleaner.
Cleaner, yeah,
Yeah, cleaner. With a whole group of women who clean this one office building, and they're all getting paid. And there's some funny dialogue um, where this one of the cleaners is pregnant, and she looks at her envelope and she goes, "It's short." And the lady who runs the crew is like, "You're lazy," and she's like, "I'm pregnant." She goes, "You're pregnant and lazy."
yeah, that was good.
Yeah, yeah. So she goes to her friend Isaac's house, played by Asa Butterfield, who you'll recognize from Ender's Game, Sex Education. Um, and he is the another nerdy character. Well, the first one, so we don't know that Iola is also a nerd or programmer, obviously, at this point.
Right. She
but
just
she
shows up there and
yeah,
he's busy typing away and talking to his computer because he's designing a character. The character looks like her because he obviously
right,
has a thing for her.
right,
And she sneaks up, spooks him, and they kind of just start having banter and talking about shit. She's like fidgeting with the parts. I can't remember if she brings one or she takes one from him, an old computer system that she wants to refurbish or something. I think she takes it with her
right.
to try to fix it,
Well,
and
that's it.
he's coding.
That's the Atari, and then that's the tape.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she's like, meet me at this diner at 1:30, and we'll run it, because I guess that's what she gets out of work, and that's our kind of interaction. And then she goes home, so we get to meet, meet her mom and learn a little about her home life, and her mom's just kind of comatose on the couch staring at the TV. There's like
Uh-huh.
a smoking like meth pipe like behind
Yeah.
her head. Um, she's like, I need my medicine. And Kayla's like, you keep doing that shit, you're gonna be dead. You want to be dead?
Right. Okay. So I want to get into the fact that like these are like the cookie cutter most least interesting characters ever. Like the fact that the mother is addicted to drugs and just sort of like zoned out and like it's like okay, she's gripping the doll and she's playing the doll that has the voice of the son who obviously is not around and obviously is passed because everyone looks morose and she's got the crack pipe and the kid is the surrogate head of the household because the mother is too gone, detached from the world from this trauma. It's like it's so heavy-handed. It's not very interesting. It's obvious. It's just there. It's
Yeah,
I don't think there's really much
it's not new territory. We've seen it
right.
before, and not only have we seen it before, we've seen it before in horror movies.
Hmm.
It is definitely a cookie cutter like setup, I think. Um,
Well, and it could have been like it left. To me, it's just that there's lots of moments of that where things are just standard. Like, okay, well, in a movie like this, we have to do this before we do that, and I feel like there's a lot of times in this movie where they default to that, where it's like, okay, what's the next thing that's supposed to happen? Let's go do that. um, which could be fine, but I don't think that they do enough to make things interesting or unique to keep you interested in it. For me, that's what kept leaving me from taking to getting immersed into it. And
mm,
so this is like the first starts of it, the fits of it, where just early on it just feels that way. Um, the love interest where he's obviously fawning for her, but she's cool and calm, and it's just all
right.
standard stuff. And I'm waiting for him to do something interesting or different, and for me, it just never gets there.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the next scene where she is waiting for him to show up,
Yeah, she's
and
at
it's
the diner. I didn't remember her saying that she was going to meet him, but whatever the case is,
she
like,
said
yeah,
she
she's
said
at
yeah
the.
she said 1:30, so it's 2 o'clock, and she texts him, "This is why you don't have a girlfriend."
Oh,
Uh,
right. Okay, yeah, yeah.
and then she goes oh well, the waitress comes over and says, "Hey, you gotta go. You've been sitting here forever." And she's like, "Just give me a minute." And she pops open her laptop and loads up the game.
Hmm.
And the first run of the game I thought was pretty fun. She it's coffee or cake, right? And the menu says coffee cake, and
Uh huh.
then when she gets the coffee, the waitress like teleports to her space and just like
Right.
pours the coffee.
Say
And
when.
so yeah, so now so okay, so the app is manipulating the waitress, right?
Yeah.
And then but then she looks back at the menu and the menu's normal again. So this whatever it does, it kind of like it distorts reality, and then it can can just put it back to normal apparently.
Yeah, it has
Um,
control over the people in it. They turn into NPCs more or less that do what she wants them to do, or her choices are indicating. But they are still very much real people, and we'll find out here in a second. Like they're cognizant or aware of what they're doing, but they have no control over their
their
own
bodies, yeah,
bodies at
yeah,
this point.
yep. So the next question is something like bend or break or something like that, but it's clever, it's cleverly worded, but it's break. Break is the choice
Right.
that she goes with, and the waitress starts pulling glasses off the shelf and just throwing them softly down, and they're just shattering at her feet. and the owner is like sleeping in a booth right
Mm-hmm.
there. And then it's like, you want her to stop? And she goes, yes. And then he
Shop
goes,
or clean. It says something or clean, right?
well, no, no. Then it says, would you like her to clean it up? And she
Okay.
goes, yeah. She's like, clean. And then she gets down on her knees right into the glass and just
Yeah, she
starts
just stomped down. Yeah.
and starts eating the glass. Now, I would have preferred her to eat the glass a little more ravenously. The one at a time I thought was a little weak, but
A little.
I still enjoyed it.
It was stupid. It was stupid. It was so like it eating glass. Like it was her expression, the way that she did it. The slow crunch,
Yeah,
and like she's looking like she's whimpering, but she's slowly biting it. It's like it's to your point, the more ravenous or
yeah,
something different. The way it was shot, it wasn't to me. It didn't get me excited or like it wasn't big gore.
yeah.
It was, and this film is going to do this a lot of times where it's sort of like we want to be like Saw. That's kind of what we want to do. We want to be kind of like Saw. We kind of want to be like Would You Rather. We kind of want to be like all these other better films, but we're not. But we might want to trick you into thinking that we are, and please consider us to be that good so that we can keep doing garbage movies.
Okay. So so now she's the main character now, Kayla, is completely like shocked, scared. She has no idea what's going on. She actually tries to run over there to stop her, and the owner hops out of his booth and kind of starts to scream this really like digital high pitched sound, and he starts glitching like on the
Right.
spot, like stopping her, which she just kind of throws him out of the way and like tries to stop the girl anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
she's got both hands on it. She can't really physically restrain her. She's still kind of doing it. And at this point, I think she's like gripping the glass, and because she keeps trying to bring it in, but she can't eat it
yeah.
anymore.
And this is where uh, I think it goes back to the screen and it says a worthy opponent, level one complete. See you same time
Mm-hmm.
to see you same time tomorrow.
Right for
Um,
the second level.
right, but I don't think she doesn't see that. So
No, I think she freaks out and closes the screen. Right.
yeah, so she's gonna get like pulled into it in the next night, and then after that she'll see it and she'll know that every night is the next level.
Yeah.
That is one thing that I liked. Two things that I liked in this from this scenario is that the guy didn't show up, so she went through it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that the levels are going to be nightly, right? She's not going to go right into level two. This isn't like an entire event that's taking place in a night. She's not going to have to run her laptop to wherever he is
Yeah.
to be like, oh my god, this crazy shit's happening. Level two is about to start. What do I do? Um, it got to take its time a little bit, and there got to be a mystery that they're like trying to unravel instead of just like a Saw movie where once the panic starts, it just doesn't stop until it's over.
Oh yeah. So that's a fair point. The structure that they're developing with the way that this game interacts with the characters is unique and could be interesting. The trouble that it's going to have throughout the whole film in a film like this is that why they set up their own plot devices to progress the narrative, and the only thing that's really keeping your interest is waiting for the next crazy fucking thing to happen. And a shitty movie will just rely on that to guide it. A more interesting or dynamic movie will have the other parts, the lulls or the in between, the intense action and gore. They'll be interesting and you'll care. And for me, it never engaged that other part because they were boilerplate type characters and the interactions I thought were very flat. It didn't grab me to keep me excited. So I was just waiting for the next thing to happen, and I thought that they were fine. As we get into it, they just didn't elevate anything beyond this thing happened. And so, like, I think it could be a good device. I just think that there's certain things where they're not tweaking it the way that they did. Maybe it's editing, maybe it's the way it's written, or shot, or acted, but there's something lacking for me that I can acknowledge these things are interesting in a lot of ways, but it's not pulling me in an exciting way. So, anyways,
Anyway,
she that's I think she wakes up after this, and she's kind of like,
oh yeah, maybe
well,
was it real? Not
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's questioning it, and so she ends up going to work. Like you said, the next time that this is going to happen, she's at work. Correct?
right. Yes, but before that, there's this one bit where she meets the drug dealer, her mom's drug dealer.
Oh, Lance,
Yeah, and
fucking douche,
douche and gives
like the douchiest
yeah
non-drug dealer, drug dealer.
yeah yeah who um you know insinuates that for for $20 he'd probably bang Kayla.
Yeah,
Yeah, if she was if she ever needed $20. Uh,
yeah, it's like it's over the top sleazeball type
yeah.
stuff.
Also,
But that's the other thing too. Like he's a super predatorily aggressive character, but she's like, "This is life. He's gonna go fuck my mom and give her drugs. What can I do?"
what can I do?
And it's kind of like Jesus.
Yeah.
It's a bit heavy to be so casual about it.
Well, I mean, what can you do when you're taking care of your drug dealer mom? I don't know, or drugged
Yeah,
up
yeah,
mom, drugged up, depressed mom. So the one little note here is that the mom has this paranoid delusion about rats,
yeah.
and
She hears them in the walls. She
yeah,
hears the rats in the walls. Right.
Kayla has basically this canned response that like calms her down. So we fast forward to she's at work that night, and there's a desk in the middle of the room with a computer monitor on it, and the game starts.
Yeah, I think that they do a cool thing with the lights because it's sort of
Oh
like
yeah,
an office building where it's all open, sort of like Bruce Wayne's Batcave in the Christopher Nolan series where it's all white. They've
yeah,
done music videos in that fucking location. I think.
yeah,
Maybe it was Drake's. I can't remember. Anyways, yeah, they do the cool lighting effect where it's like a nightclub type fucking the green light, the digital light. I love all that light. I love that atmosphere
yeah.
related to the game and that feeling like you're in the technology. I do love that aesthetic. And this was cool moment where they transition into that setting, and she sees the table that wasn't there a minute ago, draped in plastic. She runs over, pulls the plastic off, and the game is ready to start level two.
Yep, and she gets a phone call and it's her mom and she immediately starts screaming about the rats and she says she says her key response and she keeps screaming about the rats and you hear the rat noises over the phone now.
Yeah,
And
you do the
and
little video
I
game
yeah,
slash real rat screeches. It's
I
funny.
I loved this sequence, okay? So we've got player 1, player 2 and the screen loads up and you've got a character in a bathroom, which she says she locked herself in the bathroom. Okay, she's in the bathroom. Or no, she's not in the bathroom. She's in
She's
the
in the bedroom.
one of the yeah, she's in the bedroom, right?
Yeah,
And then you've got living room, and then you've got a couple other smaller rooms, and then you've got
kitchen
bathroom.
and
Yeah.
bathroom. Yeah,
So the choice comes up, living room or dining room, and because she's in the bedroom and the living room's here and the door out is there, and the rat is in the bathroom all the way on the other side, she thinks she's controlling her mom and types living room, and the rat runs from the bathroom into the living room. And so you're like, oh shit, she's controlling the rat, and she's got to like time it with the mom to get her out of the house. So she then the next one, bathroom is a choice again. So she sends the rat back to the bathroom, and she tries to get the mom to run. She tries to run, but the rat sees her and chases her back into the bedroom. And
hmm
now the rat saw her, so it's like at the door, and it was charge or chew. So she figures with chew, she'll buy her mom some time. She's like, Mom, you got to jump out the window. And she types in chew, and it's like coming through the wall, and it's saying like meat. Meat is like all over the place. And she ends up jumping out the window, and as the rat chases her to the window. And she like spikes the the monitor into the floor as the supervisor comes out the elevator, immediately gets fired, cut to her next to her mom in the hospital. So
yeah.
she
You
didn't
just lost your job, bud.
yeah, yeah, she didn't die though, but
No, yeah, I guess it was a not that high up in the air. Not that
Yeah.
maybe
Second floor? Second
maybe
story?
second floor, but
Yeah.
even then, that's 10 plus feet maybe,
Yeah.
and uh, so a couple things. I did love the imagery of the video game in this level.
Yeah.
It was
I-
cool. The little pixelated drawings of
oh
the
yeah. The
mom of
rat,
the
the
rat
mom,
were
yeah.
cool as fuck.
The suspense I thought in this scene was good too, and I like how they did it without showing you anything. Like
Right.
like we did have
You
some
never
of
saw the real world.
yeah, you
You only
never
saw the
saw
video game version of the mother and the rat.
right. So
And the
like
rat was as big as the mother.
right, yeah, she was the rat was gigantic because
Right.
as we'll see, or not, we won't see the rat, but we'll see the damage to the apartment
Right.
in a moment.
So I
Um,
mean, there was. I think that this was much better performance from level one.
yeah,
This was much more interesting, and probably because they didn't show something stupid happening, like a girl eating
eating
sugar.
glass. Yeah,
Like it pulled you out of it. This was just a dumb video game type rendition of it, and it was much more pleasing to watch.
yeah, and once again, I think this movie as a horror movie, and once again, I thought would probably be funny because of the retro nostalgic style of movies like this, um,
Right.
is not playing any comedy, and I think the suspense is actually pretty good. Like, there are a handful of jump scares in here. One or two of them got me pretty good. Uh, I didn't, jump scares.
There's one got me good for sure. Yeah, that's coming
Yeah,
up. Yeah.
yeah. I normally like jump scares. They just like roll right off me. But
Yeah, the fizzle.
yeah. But in this, I think they did a pretty good job with the tension. So she goes back home to find the drug dealer once again. Follows her in to look at the damage, and her place is destroyed. There's a huge hole gnawed out of the door. It says
Yeah.
meat. Its meat is like carved into the wall. uh,
Which doesn't make sense, but it's neat.
it's cool.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense,
It
but
doesn't
it
make
is
any
cool.
sense. Lance is like, looks like Mommy Dearest is going to be staying with me as he gets increasingly creepy. Um, and then she goes to Isaac. So she tried to tell Isaac
Right.
about the diner, and he was just like, blah, you're obviously just like not sleeping well.
Right.
Which I think is the go-to when a woman is talking crazy about
Hey,
crazy
take
stuff.
back the night.
Yeah.
Believe women.
So so this time he's like, I believe you. I believe you. What are we gonna do about it? And she's like, well, we got to play the game tonight, and I guess she wants him to be there, which I think is probably a bad choice considering the game tends to affect the people around her.
Right, that like something's gonna happen where he's gonna do something bad or hurt
Right.
himself or whatever. So yeah, it's a bad idea. She should know that like it's gonna interact with people that are close to you or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, I guess the second level it just went
It went
somewhere else.
wherever
So
it wanted to go. So the game's gonna do what the game's gonna do. And
right.
I actually like this the spin because I definitely thought he was gonna be the target of the third night. Instead, he like so when the game wakes up and says you are with your loyal squire,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when it starts to show itself to Isaac, and he starts to in disbelief that it's affecting the real world, kind of, oh shit, this is
Yeah.
real. um,
Yeah.
what are
And
we
he's
gonna
kind of like enamored with it at first, like, oh, this is kind of cool or weird or what the hell. Um, and then yeah, they see the red door, blue door, and
red
he's
door
like,
blue
oh,
door?
never
He never
choose
chooses the
red, but
red door.
red.
He goes to the blue door and he hears the whisper of the word die. Which sounded like the younger brother to me, right away, because we did
Mm-hmm.
have like a we had like a dream with him or something with her.
She might have
So
had a dream.
so
Yeah, of
we
like
already knew about the little brother before this scene somehow. So they choose a red door. They go in, and it comes to the pool that he drowned in, but it's covered in fog.
Right.
And they go in there, and there's a little
Well, because
deep.
because she hears the brother, she sees the brother,
Oh,
she's chasing the brother,
yeah,
and the brother goes in the pool, so she goes down the ladder, and Isaac's down there, and like they can't see each other in this
right.
pool. It's all fog, and they're like running around and can't see each other. Don't you know? Um, to where eventually, I think the brother attacks
Attacks
the
Isaac.
brother. The brother is Ricky.
Right, Ricky.
Ricky
Yep,
attacks Isaac,
and kills him.
and
And
seemingly,
then
yeah,
seemingly
right,
seemingly
yeah,
kills him.
yeah,
Then lays there also seemingly dead, and the game makes her choose between saving Ricky or Isaac. Well, she chooses Isaac
right.
because obviously this is the game, and that's not her brother. Her brother's dead, and she's over it and moved on, even though it's still sad, and even though her mother hasn't. Um, so Isaac comes to life, and this was the lamest of the games.
Well,
'Cause-
this and also the most insane and like not realistic to me.
oh sure, sure.
The jump scare here was great. She saves Isaac, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Ricky attacks
Attacks her.
Kayla from the side. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like after midnight type jump scare where the monster comes from the side of the screen and just
yeah.
wipes her out. And so then she starts wrestling with her dead brother. This is a ghost, but it's real. It has tangible qualities. They're fighting each other. And so she has to overpower him. She gets on top of him and she
And
starts to fucking snuff him out
she has
and
to
suffocate him.
she has to strangle him to death to move
This
on.
would not happen. This is
Well,
not like
the
she
game,
followed him because she wanted to be with him and she was
yeah,
chasing him this whole time.
the
And so
game,
for her and he's crying like a little brother like
yeah.
no, please don't. Like and she's like no.
No, you're not
The
real.
fact that she's so easily able to do this, I find shocking.
She knew it was the game. She knew it was the game fucking with her.
But she didn't a minute ago when she chased him, thinking that she had to find him and that he might be alive.
I don't know. Maybe she didn't think that. She didn't say that out loud.
Okay.
It was definitely the weakest game. I will concede that point.
Yeah, so it's like she drowns him
Yeah,
again.
again, yes. And they come back out the door, and the game says, "Congratulations, see you tomorrow for level 5."
Is that what it fucking does?
Yeah.
No,
So
no, no. Yeah, well, yeah, it says to come back or whatever.
yeah,
So then
this is the
they try
investigation
to.
part, right?
This is where we're gonna get exposition and everything
Yeah,
too. Yeah, this is
yeah,
where they need to figure it out because they can't go through that again.
right. So he finds the original programmer and some like video footage of like
He's able to take like the code, like it's all analog stuff, and
right,
he's talked about like how that people would smurf the phones and you could do the thing to make any call, and so
right,
he's able to pull out the sound in some way and convert it to text through some other bullshit,
right.
old hackers type shit, hack the planet,
Yeah, yeah.
and he finds the address, which is upstate New York.
Yep, yep. And they drive up because it's not that far, and it's like a abandoned
Like
schoolhouse or
no,
something.
it's like a big like industrial park type
Oh,
thing. It's a
sure.
warehouse type setting. Which is also funny. Like it doesn't make any sense. They just get a random address and like they come into this abandoned parking lot and they're driving all fast and they're like, "Arr!" and it's like it's just a fucking chain link fence with a keep out sign. And they're like, "Yep, this is the place." Okay, like and then they walk in and they find just where they need to go. They find the old video equipment or whatever.
Yep.
Um, and this is where they get their the beta test exposition type
Right.
story happens, right?
Right. So the guy who figured out the curse and created the game, because I guess he found the curse and he was able to put the curse into the video game,
Yeah, he
which
talks
was
about
like
it. He's doing like a
yeah, his only way to contain it so that the curse didn't run rampant in the world was to convert it into this code, and then he made a game out of it. Just I don't know, so it had a shell or whatever.
Right, and he's
Um,
testing it. He's got a lab rat person that he's going to do the game
yeah,
on,
it's like a
and
college kid who's getting paid for some testing, and
it's it's like a reference to Ghostbusters.
yeah, no, it definitely is. Like, he's like, when I get paid for this, I'm kicking your ass.
I don't know, three wavy lines.
Yeah, exactly. So he's telling the camera that whoever like owns the curse is going to be helped by whatever the curse harms.
Yeah,
So he types in arm or something, and
yeah.
the
I don't
guy,
remember what he
yeah,
does.
the guy chooses arm. So as soon as he chooses arm, the guy like stabs himself in the arm, and the test subject starts eating his own arm. And as the
Hmm.
test subject's eating his arm heals,
Right.
and he does. Yeah, okay, so now we know. Okay, that's what that does. Okay, so I mean, I pretty much think they go right to level 5 after this. Or no, they're
Well,
still level 5 gets them here, doesn't it?
yeah. Well, yeah. They're here, and I'm trying to remember now because, fuck, something happens. Oh, it's the rewind or fast forward. They do the next level somewhere, and this is where Isaac has the next level is impacting him.
Right. Well, so something happens. So I think the next level, the game cheated, right? The game cheated because they were cheating.
Right, yeah, they talked
Right.
about cheat codes.
Yeah.
And
The
they do
game.
this. I forgot about this dumb fucking scene. They
Yeah.
did
The
the
the car
the
transition.
car
So when they go on this road trip, it starts off in the video game. It shows the car going off, and then it says cheat mode, cheat mode, cheat mode, and then it like fades into
and they're
real
like
life.
talking, it's like a montage. They're
Yeah.
like swerving, getting points and the stupidest fucking thing.
Yeah.
It serves no purpose. It's like,
Right.
oh hey, let's put more 80s nostalgia in here to make sure people are hooked on it. It's so fucking dumb, dude.
So right here in the industrial park where they've just watched the video, the game decides to cheat and not wait until 1:30 or 2 a.m. to turn on, and it locks Isaac in like a digital tracking field of like when you would
Yeah.
watch a VHS and the tracking was really bad, and he's kind of stuck in it. And rewind or fast forward is the choose or die, to which she fast forwards and he starts vomiting tape,
Hmm.
and then she rewinds, and then it goes in, and then it asks again. It asks a third time, and she fast forwards, and it goes out. And this time, when it finishes, he drops, and they have a moment, and he dies.
Yeah. And that's it.
Now, so there, this was another turn for me. Isaac's not going to make it to the end, and they're not going to have this final kiss. Okay, all right. So break. I know, like you said, very formula for the most part in elements of this movie, but they definitely just broke formula here
Right.
because Isaac should have ridden it to the end with a heartfelt "I loved you" the whole time and just didn't know kind of
Yeah, but
kiss
I
thing.
suppose they didn't really have any way to progress the narrative to the beat the boss thing. They said there's gonna be another level, and so if they get to this place and they figure out what it is, who gets impacted then? You know, there's no
Right,
other characters aside from Lance in that things can happen to. No one
right.
else exists, so
No,
he
that's true.
was
That
the only choice,
he
really.
wasn't.
You
Yeah,
know,
he
it's
was.
like
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense that it was done this way. Just
yeah, they would have
it,
had to have built more depth
another.
their
Yeah,
characters and more range if they were going to do something else, have a
right,
small group where there's a third wheel and it's more funny and plucky. Who knows, that would have probably been a better way because wouldn't have been just a dead three characters. Probably would have been better than just two in this situation because you could have had a different trope that was interacting with them that kept it more interesting or light when it needed to be light instead of serious and romantic and sappy between the two because it's not as if they were strong in portraying that kind of love with one another or longing for the one. So
Well, I mean,
And it,
he definitely was showing
yeah,
it.
he felt that way, but she didn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
She
she
was
did.
fine with him doing, yeah.
Yeah. So, um, level 5 apparently
She
was the
gets
final level, and it said to prepare for the final boss battle. So she knows that.
and does it give her the address? I can't remember if does it tell her
It
where.
gives her the coordinates, and
Oh,
this
right, the coordinates. It just
yeah
gives
yeah
longitudinal
yeah,
latitude coordinates.
and she drives right there, and
Mm-hmm.
we come right up to the ending or the first ending of two, and she comes to the house, and it's it's Hal, Eddie Marsan, and his family, and the the boy has a cutout mouth taped over his mouth, a cutout eye taped over his eye. The wife has some weird whatever going on.
Scarification type thing on her face or cheek. It looks like
Yeah, and
they're at dinner
they're at
and she
dinner,
just waltzes in.
and it's very weird and uncomfortable. And he just invites her to sit down and tries to sort out what's going on. And she says that this is it told me this is the final boss, and that's
Yeah,
why I'm here.
I got to beat the boss.
He's like, well, if the final boss is me, and he just like is putting it together, and he's like, well, then you're here to kill me, and I have to kill you first. But uh, the choose or die says you or him, and we don't really know what that means until the first blow is struck against Kayla, and Hal is affected by it.
Right.
So she grabs a knife and she starts to like cut herself, and it's showing up on Hal. Hal's got a gun, or someone has a gun. She gets shot, but it puts a bullet hole in him.
Mm-hmm.
This goes on back and forth. This is actually a pretty fun scene, and I thought this was an interesting way to do it. Like, obviously, doesn't really make a lot of sense,
No.
but it was like neat. It was just like a neat way to do the ending. Like, um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're both about to kill each other. He's slicing his throat, and her throat is getting slit. She's grabbing this heavy lawn ornament and jumps into a pool with that thing on top of her. Um, and then he
To
just
drown
starts,
herself.
yeah,
Yeah.
water just starts like shooting out of his mouth and nose, and he dies.
Mm-hmm.
And when he dies, it goes to his man cave from the beginning of the movie, and on the screen it says, "You are dead." Um, and then it comes back, and she has survived.
Yeah.
She's been patched up. The wife is there, kind of like thanks her for killing her husband and saving her life and getting her and her son out of that horrific whatever they were stuck in
Uh-huh.
that we assume the husband put them in, because we don't get a lot of answers about this situation, but we don't really need them. Um, so so now she is seemingly done with the game, and she's now the master of the game, the same way I guess he was.
Right.
Um, so she immediately there was this cryptic symbol language that the game used
Mm-hmm.
that she had deciphered, or because she's a coder too. She's got a
Right.
keyboard with all those symbols on it, and she's figured it out, and she's typing in all those weird symbols, and she starts controlling because she's got all those bandages on her from the fight. She starts controlling Lance, and she has Lance put his face into a sink full of syringes,
Uh-huh.
and then she peels the bandages off, and she's fully healed. Um, and then the cops come, and we get to see the aftermath of Lance, which was kind of cool. So it was like okay prosthetics, like his face was all bloated, and like one was stuck
Yeah.
in his eyeball. Um, and then she gets a phone call from the creator, and
Uh-huh.
they have a silly little talk. And probably the dumbest part of the movie for me is the one-liner that finishes off the movie. Because basically he's like, yo, you have the power now, blah 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 blah, and you can kill whoever you want. And she goes, only people who deserve it. So, okay. Yeah, I got a little cheese ball at the end. You created a superhero who can curse people through a computer and is only gonna she's an anti-hero though, right? She's only gonna use it against villains.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. All right. Weird twist, but sure. Um, all right. That's the whole movie.
Yeah.
If you didn't
So
if you didn't watch it and just watched this episode, you don't need to
yeah.
go watch it.
No.
Unless you really, really, really want some nostalgia.
Yeah, or you're masochistic. I will not recommend.
uh,
Um,
I will recommend this to people who have not seen it, to people who want this kind of movie. I mean, it was simple.
but right, but right, and but simple used to be done well, and this does not do simple well. It's just doing it for doing its sake.
Yeah,
Like that last scene, there's a couple things that were like absurdly funny, not because they were trying to be funny, but just because of how shitty it was done. But like at the dinner table, they're like arguing, and he's talking about I don't know if how he's talking about technology or times past, but she goes, "Fuck the '80s."
yeah. And
He's
he's like,
flabbergasted. He's
"Fuck
fuck the
the
'80s.
'80s."
What?
Yeah,
He can't believe it.
yeah.
Uh, it's so stupid, but it that was kind of entertaining. And then the kid was a fucking freak show.
The kid
It was
was a freak
kind of
show.
cool because he had those cutouts and it was sort of like I don't know the way that it looked like a Max Headroom type weird like I just was thinking of all kinds of old imagery. And he comes out with a gun and he goes to shoot her and he shoots her or he's shooting at her and his dad's like,
No,
"You
shoot
fucking
me.
idiot!
Yeah, because
Shoot
that's
me,
where he gets
not
his first
her."
bullet wound. Is from the sun.
Right. Uh, so I mean, look, we kind of go through that end, but like the ending and the way that they resolve this bullshit story is important. Like it all kind of it concludes it logically in their own fictitious world of what makes sense with this curse that it works, but it's not it's not very interesting. It's kind of it just goes through like there. It's kind of neat. You knife your palm and it cuts his palm. Like it's kind of cool, but it's like it seems pretty quickly obvious that you know what you have to do and you go fucking kill yourself in whatever way possible. So I thought there was gonna be a race to them doing something insane to kill themselves. Like oh, I'm gonna go, like The Happening or something. I'm gonna go run under the lawnmower. I'm gonna go jump off a roof or whatever.
Yeah,
She finds the one quickest where she wants to. Uh, she drowns herself, and I guess he wanted to shoot himself in the head, but he ran out of bullets. So that all
right.
logically made sense. It just wasn't done in a way that was like super exciting or interesting to watch, and kind of have had it happen. But then just
Well,
like it does dumb things like when she's bandaged up, like what the fuck are you talking about? There's no authorities, and I guess the mother just took a break, like okay, let me bandage up now, and
yeah.
she's wearing she's got a sling. Who has fucking gauze to make a sling?
Well, I mean, it's been 3 months since that incident. Who knows what they keep or what they think, right? And also,
Right.
all right. So I will say that let's say standing there in the yard, and she says, thank you for letting me, saving me from this horrible life. Um, if she was like, "Yeah, fuck you later," and just like walked off her property to into the credits, that would
Uh
have been
huh.
a much better ending than her
Right.
getting revenge on Lance and then having the phone call with the creator.
Right.
That would have just been a little more satisfying. You didn't have to give us more, um, and it
So that's what's so shitty about it is like I feel like the whole time in this movie they just knew like okay this is phase one of our 8-part series. How are we gonna try to set the hook to get more money to make more of these pieces of shit? It's so obvious. It's so self-serving and like it's designed just to do that. Like this does not have a lot of redeeming qualities, but they dangle the fact that they want to kind of make it a franchise. As far as it's Saw, dude. Like they want to be Saw, but Saw was interesting, and they didn't do a lot. You didn't see a lot behind the curtain, and it was more tension, and the gore was with the body horror was way better than everything they did. It didn't
No,
have all
that's
these
true.
bullshit set dressings for 80s to kind of 80s could have been cool, but it's just a cheap knockoff, and I don't think it's honoring the the subject matter.
Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, right away, I'm gonna say that there was not enough gore in this movie. These kills should have been
Yeah.
over the top. They should have fit the genre. Like, if you're gonna make a movie that sticks to formula that we've all seen 100 times, where's the where's the blood? Like, where's the gore? And where's the interesting kills? Where's the kills we've never seen before? Like, we need
Right.
something
How do
that
you
we
set
have.
yourself apart?
Yeah.
The game does that, but it's not enough. It can't be the only thing
Right.
that does that.
Right, right. And the game was probably my favorite part of the movie in all of the scenes, right? Is the game is
Hmm.
interesting and they actually did a pretty decent job with the suspense and the tension of each level, but everything in between is kind of, unnecessary exposition. They could have made the crew bigger, 3 or 4 kids instead of two. So we had more people to kill. Go to level 7 before the boss or something. Like, it was definitely lacking in that regard.
Yeah, and it is it's a weird it's odd some of the choices. Um I mean, I don't like shitting on people that are a part of making these things because I want more original horror to exist in the world, but I feel that you still have to have expectations. Like when we talked about Take Back the Night and I was so hard on it, you can't just rely upon the fact that you are making a film that exists within a certain niche or environment, or you're made by certain kinds of demographics, or you're talking about other kind of demographics or other kind of points or subject matter. Just because you're in or around those areas doesn't mean that your film deserves attention and accolade. You still have to make a good film, and this just doesn't end up being a good film. Uh, I looked at the and so I don't want to shit on people, but like I did look at the director. Toby Meekins has never done a feature length film. Toby Meekins has done a ton of shorts, and when I say shorts, I mean a couple minutes, not even 30. So I don't know how this came about. What was the origin? Did Netflix say, "Hey, we got this thing, we need to direct it"? What? And also, we never even talked about Robert Englund.
Yeah.
His cameo comes early on.
Yeah.
He
He's the
there's a
he's the
the voice.
voice of the introduction to the game, right? When you turn the
Yeah, they
game
see
on.
there's a phone number because there's a little ad.
Oh,
No,
when
no,
you
no, I
call
think
the
it
yeah,
was
when you
it was an
yeah,
ad for the game. Win $125,000. So it's like dangling
right.
the money, and they see a phone number, so they call it, and Isaac is kind of like, oh my god, this is Robert England. This is so cool, and like that's what hooks him to being interested in giving a shit about this
Yes.
game. But they don't go anywhere with it. And you just hear him a couple times through the movie. It's kind of you know
Yeah.
it and again it's that's similar to the fact that you hear Jigsaw's voice over the radio directing you to do this, want to play a game. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like you're riding the coattails or standing on the shoulders of other people that came before you, and you're not adding to the conversation in any meaningful way. So for me, like it just kept hitting negative note after negative note,
Yeah.
and it never
Yeah, for
it
for
was just
yeah.
depleted.
For me, this movie should have hit the horror comedy genre and just didn't. It it did okay with the suspense and the tension, but it only did it when the game was happening. Too much time in between levels. I would call this a fun movie with half the fun. Uh, so you know, when I say watch it, I mean I'm going to give it the lowest score that I can possibly give a movie that I would tell you to watch, which is a
Sure.
five, which is a five. Um,
Okay.
that being said, if you are into 80s nostalgia, if you want to watch a pretty okay movie, it was pretty okay. Um, it it
Okay.
was
Here's.
if
Do
go
you
ahead.
want to hear? No, no, no. Yeah,
No,
it's.
no, I'm
I'm just
done.
hearing you say that. Here's. So I was part of the fun of seeing how social media reacts to different things like this, and so one of the benefits of this coming to Netflix and being on the weekend, there's hashtag. It has its own Twitter feed that you can follow. So I pull it up every now and then, and I like to see. I came across this one comment that someone made for the movie, and this is a relatively new account. The person doesn't really have any followers. It's pretty fresh, and it's confusing to me. So this person says this is at Levi Wrangler 2. Just watch hashtag Choose or Die on hashtag Netflix. Absolutely amazing. My eyes stayed glued to the TV. Only time I picked up my phone was to see who directed this hashtag masterpiece, and I must say, at Toby Meekins, you are a genius. If you are a fan of a hashtag Nightmare on Elm Street, check out this movie. So is this a bot? Is this someone that was paid by Netflix to create an account, or is this a Netflix employee that needs to fucking hype up the movie? Because this is a disservice to the community because it seems disingenuous. No one talks like this.
Right. Yeah, people don't talk like that. That's a lot of like hashtags, like even hashtagging Nightmare on Elm Street. Get out of here.
And here's the other thing that's frustrating: the director, Toby Meekins, he replied to this tweet with the prayer hands emoji.
Okay.
So does he believe this? Is he just propagating it and yeah, this is good. I got to support this
Well,
paid
there's
tweet that we just put in.
there's a whole
It's just so
media
bizarre,
machine.
dude.
Yeah, there's a media machine behind all of this stuff. Like
It's so bizarre, and
and
but it's so off-putting, and it's fucking frustrating that this exists. And that's the thing. Ever since we've been doing this, I like to see what happens on Twitter or social media because it's eye-opening about how polarizing things are, or how opinionated certain people are, how much they go in and support the art that they've seen and shut down any other kind of you know critical thought or analysis on what it was,
yeah,
and
they also like the trolls, if you will. They don't even like take the time to like understand the original, like the source material. For
sure.
for instance, I posted that photo of Orphan 2 coming in
Yeah,
August.
yeah, yeah. Right,
Now, for me, a movie called Orphan 2 is a sequel to Orphan, not the prequel. So
right,
I assumed that they maybe were starting filming of Orphan 2 in August, not bringing the prequel to streaming in August.
right.
So I'm thinking a completely different thing, and all the replies to that photo were like fake news, the orphan
People
firstborn.
replied to it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, tons. I deleted it. Like I don't feed the trolls. I just deleted it.
Are you
The
serious?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I just deleted it. The fucking the one guy was like, this will be released by Paramount Plus. There has been no confirmed release date. Please stop spreading fake news. I'm like, dude, first of all I said was yes with a bunch of unnecessary letters and exclamation points. You don't even know what I was excited about. I was excited
Yeah.
about a third orphan movie, you fucking retard. Like, I did no research. I saw a picture of
It's
Isabel
so
Furman.
frustrating.
I saw a picture of Isabel Furman covered in blood, and it said Orphan 2. No, it didn't say Orphan First Kill. It said Orphan
Right,
2. Orphan First Kill is a
right,
prequel. It's not Orphan fucking 2.
right.
So,
Because we talked about that, and
yeah.
so do you even know is it actually Orphan 2 and
No,
not Orphan First Kill?
it's not Orphan 2. The people who posted that, because I went back after those comments came up and
Right,
was like, fine, I'll do the fucking research, you fucking
right.
idiots. And I went back And I was like, oh, they were talking about First Kill. Well, what? First of all, what a bunch of retards! They're talking about a prequel and calling it Orphan
Right.
2. That's not
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
that's not how you normally do it.
I even replied to the guy before I deleted the thread. Like the next day, I was like, yeah, it looks like it was clickbait about this. And then like a bunch of other likes. Isabel Furman liked one of the people saying who said, "This is Paramount Plus. They haven't released the date yet." Somebody just said that,
Right.
and
Right.
Isabel Furman liked that
Uh,
reply to our comment to our tweet.
Fucking crazy.
which is
Dude,
fine and cool. Like at least she didn't like the fucking assholes quote or
but
tweet.
everything like nearly everything I've encountered with us doing this and interacting with social media, it's embarrassingly dumb. And it it's you want to have the outlet to share and promote things in a positive way. Um but people are extremely polarized and extremely sensitive on
Good.
both sides of a positive or negative thing,
Yeah.
where people just feel so vehemently opposed or contrarian and they want to fucking shout it at the top of their lungs on this dumb fucking platform,
If
and
if
it sucks.
if we didn't actually need Twitter to do our jobs,
Right.
I would definitely not come anywhere near
No,
it.
it's garbage. And the more I see, the more I just hate because it's like how I feel about this film. You landed on a 5, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is what
Where'd
you
you
said.
land? Yep.
I landed on a 2. I didn't enjoy any of the things that it did, and it was so that's where it landed for me. Um, I don't like shitting on it, and I don't want to like be a curmudgeon about it and say that like it's just garbage bullshit. Don't watch it. Like, go ahead and watch it. Like for me, this did not work in any way, shape, or form. There was a very few fleeting moments where I thought something was neat or interesting, or maybe some of the ideas were neat and interesting. They did it was not at all to me neat or interesting. Uh, and I think it's a piece of shit. But if you want to watch it, fine. I don't. It's my opinion. You don't have to fucking care. Uh, People seem so strongly about the fact that they don't want people to have that sentiment or to share that sentiment to the world. Like, don't put out that negative energy and everything. Like, okay, that's fine. I can put out whatever energy I want to fucking put out, and I am gonna identify when things are not good, and when things are good, you're gonna hear me talk about it in a very different fucking way. We've talked about X, we've talked about Come True, The Night House, Malignant. Those are goddamn gems. And if you don't contrast in a significant way why that is so much better of a piece of art than something like this to me or something else, then there's nothing that separates them. Then they're all in the same fucking shelf of watch any of these. If you imagine all of those movies and this on the shelf to pick out to go home with a movie, and you need guidance or you want assistance, like the awful shitty responses are like two things, like it has to be out there, it has to exist. And so like I want to shit on things, but I know it just it won't get a response. Venting here is all that I can do. I'm content to do that. People take it or leave it. It's what it is. It's just it's a fucking weird thing.
Yeah. All right. With that, we move on to All My Friends Hate Me. Pete is cautiously excited about reuniting with his college crew for a birthday weekend, but one by one his friends slowly turn against him. Is he being punished? Is he paranoid? Or is he part of some sick joke? Directed by Andrew Gaynord, written by Tom Palmer and Tom Storton. Tom Storton, who is the main character, Pete, who plays the main character, Pete. All right, you wanna
Okay.
kick this one off?
Yeah. So as far as uh, this is touted as a horror comedy. I'm just thinking about the synopsis. I think it's fine. I don't think it leads you one way or the other. But being comedy horror, I'm going to look at it a certain way, and I'm going to want to have both of those elements represented. I'm going to want a strong horror theme or horror events to occur, and I'm gonna want to laugh throughout the whole thing, whether it's in tone, where it's farcical or making fun of itself, or ridiculous or absurd, a la Black Sheep, uh, or just has funny characters doing funny shit, uh, dialogue and things like that, like Shaun of the Dead or something like that, or so that's what I went into this for, and I would say that this overall this movie doesn't live up to its expectations with it being termed a comedy horror.
Yes, I would totally agree. I would say that this movie was short on comedy and short on horror.
I'll say, for me, I enjoyed the comedy very much. I thought that this was comedic throughout, and it's a certain kind of comedy. Uh, it's very dry, uh, but it is a certain kind of comedy. And yeah, the horror elements. It's not so much horror as it is like thriller type dramatic things, mystery esque type vibes, and it doesn't get into traditional horror tropes the way that I would probably have wanted to. So this it starts off. I mean, I guess the way the film starts off is that it's going to be Pete's birthday weekend, and his friends are throwing a big gathering at one of their houses or estates. Uh, there's a big group of them. So Pete is the lead. His friends are Fig, Claire, George, uh, and Archie. His girlfriend is Sonia, and there's going to be a
Oh,
an
Claire was also a friend.
uninvited. Yeah, I said Claire, right?
Oh, you did say Claire? I missed it.
Yeah. Either way,
Sorry. Either way.
Harry is the one that I left out. Harry is the unknown person that we're going to be introduced to. So more or less, he's going to this retreat weekend to see all of his friends. He's turning 31, and these are all friends from uni, as they say. Sidebar: we didn't mention it, but apparently, Choose or Die was meant to be in America. It was New York,
Oh, okay.
upstate New York,
Upstate
right?
New York, yeah.
It was shot in England, and all the overhead shots, like in the feel and the look of it, was very England.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Like I saw it, I was like, "Is this the fucking Cabrini Green? These look like projects that they're fucking like doing the overhead aerial shots of. Weird. It looked like
Right.
housing projects. So at any
Well,
rate,
it was meant to be. She, the mom kept saying it used to be a
right?
nice
Yeah, I
neighborhood.
know.
Yeah.
It's just people that are familiar with the environment were talking about how like it's very obvious that this is fucking London, England, and this is
Oh,
where the
okay.
shot and making fun of it. That's not New York. It couldn't be any more England with the environment.
Right,
How many
right.
people described it? So whatever. That's just funny. Movie magic. So Pete is on his way to this retreat, and that's where everything's going to take place. He's going to go out and he's going to try to have a good birthday weekend with all his friends and try to figure himself out or see where he fits in, or it's like all the things. That's the one thing I will say, that this film is grounded in reality, in the way that you could envision yourself being this age, having good friends from college that you're going to see after some several years, maybe some 8 or 10 years, which is sort of close to the time frame because he's turning 31. Most of these friends would have been in college. You would have been 21, 22 by the time you left college. Standardly, that's how it would work. So that anxiety that you would have getting in that group setting again, how you fit in with the group, how you remember people, and the clickiness or the persona that you used to have, how you perceived yourself, that now you're gonna be around your mates and how you're gonna be with them. There's all those like thoughts and ruminations that can occur, that I liked that feeling of it. And maybe it's because I've had such disjointed relationships in my life, in that relationships more or less just get put aside and I move on to the next chapter of my life and I never go back. There's a handful, and I mean a handful of people that I still interact with from all of the different stages of my life. And so I can't envision really doing something like this.
Right, right. Yeah, it was the setup was kind of outside of reality for me. It was also kind of outside of reality for Pete. Pete didn't quite get it. The main character says
Right.
something early on about like, why? When does a friend invite you to his house to throw you a birthday party? Like, why are like he like right off the bat. Pete's a very paranoid character, which we come to learn, but right off the bat, he is questioning the very event that he is driving to,
Yeah.
in that it does not make sense.
And
And
so I like that they start that off right away,
oh
um,
yeah,
where the situation seems questionable and not being certain what to believe or how to believe the events that are unfolding is sort of the theme throughout this whole thing. Uh, and so you're like, you kind of have to detach certain things and just enjoy the ride and enjoy the comedy for what it is at face value without overthinking how things happen or why things happen. So, more or less, so I hate. I don't remember every single plot point, but more or less, he leaves his girlfriend Sonia. She's gonna meet up later on the weekend. She can't. She's for some other bullshit. So he leaves and he arrives at the estate, and it's a
oh
very large estate. It's sort of like Downton Abbey. You
we
want to
do.
talk about the car and the
Yeah,
dog?
we do have to point out the car.
Okay,
Sorry.
so
So,
en route, yeah, the two things that happen as he gets nearer to the estate, he's kind of losing his way, not really sure. He sees he's stopped and looking around where to go, and he sees here's a dog barking. He looks down the field. He sees a dog tied to a post, so he goes down to investigate, and the dog's barking, barking, and he looks around the corner. He sees a car there. It's kind of like a little smart car type sized
yeah,
Fiat, all
covered in mud.
dirty,
Yeah, covered in mud.
yeah, mud and shit. And he goes up to the window and he peers in, and a lunatic runs out and
Yeah,
chases him off.
yeah. He
And
gets
he's like
back to the
running, running,
car.
running, running, running. He gets
Yeah,
back to the car. So this is where it's like, okay, it's going to be like a weird driftery type situation with this thing where there's a person that's going to be in the area and something's going to happen because
right.
it's played for horror where he's now running and you see chasing, 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 getting close
Yeah.
to the car. He's got to start it and get the fuck out of there. This, among other things, you'll see is sort of like this whole film is filled with misdirects or
Yeah, yeah.
giving you information
I will
and
say that.
then
Yeah, I will say this movie, um, like you already said, plays itself in reality, like deep rooted reality, which you don't expect, and is unfortunate that I didn't expect it that to be that way. I wish I could have, been a little more blind about the movie, before I went into it, because I went in going horror comedy, and it's a very different movie. But they do an excellent job with the suspense. So there is plenty of suspense in this movie, from beat to beat, uh, but there's never a payoff. So
it's well, you could argue that the payoff that they have just uh doubles down on what they're doing with
it
reality.
doubles down on reality, exactly. The payoff doubles down on reality, and that'll all make sense in about 40 minutes. So
So he gets to the estate. The other thing is he
yeah,
stops and he sees okay the other one. Well, okay, we could do that one too.
we got to.
He stops and asks for directions. He sees a farmer down the walk. He parks at an intersection, a fork in the road, and he beckons him to come further, to come closer, not further. And he asks for directions. And this is good comedy here. It
This one was
starts
pretty
off.
good. This was
This is a
pretty
good
good.
direction where
Yeah.
and what's great is he's going to tell this story later on,
Yeah.
uh, because they want to. Because he's yeah.
All right.
He asks the guy where the directions are. I'm not going to play it for beat
Yeah.
or reenact it, but he asks him, and the farmer's like, "Yeah, I know where that is."
And
So
just
he very
waits.
can,
Just waits.
can you tell me how to get there?
Yeah, I can.
Yes, I can.
And just waits and waits.
So
Yeah,
eventually, he
that scene
tells
was
him,
pretty
and
good.
It was good. It was entertaining. He finally gets the directions to get there, and so he arrives. And this I thought was this to me was more funny. He arrives playing like the pinnacle 2000s or late 90s uh, techno
Yeah,
song, Sandstorm, I think it's called, right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he's
We've all
blaring
heard
it.
the song.
Yeah, and he's because this is what was popular in uni, and he apparently he told his friend he was known as Captain Sparky
The
or
Skippy, because
Skippy,
he was the skipper.
Skippy. He was the captain of the party.
Yeah,
So that's what he remembers. And so he arrives and he's like, I'm captain of the party. And so he's like, time to turn it up. He's got his music going, trunk. He's got a bottle of fucking champagne or whatever. And
yeah,
there's a couple cars there. He walks in and crickets. No one is fucking around.
yeah,
No one's there. And you just hear Sandstorm blaring like party
yeah,
music and this old estate, big rooms, old English type cottage estate, and no one's fucking there. And he just walks out shamefully back to the car and has to turn off the music and just go back inside and wait.
yeah.
And he waits all fucking day.
And into the night, and then they finally show up, and he's like covered in blankets on the couch because it apparently is cold.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's this again was another great scene where the George is there and he sees Pete, and Pete takes off the blankets. And he's like, What are you doing here?" And Pete's like, The party you this is the party's going on for my birthday." And he's like, "No, we're we're having a party, but you weren't
oh,
invited.
oh, the
We
invite.
the invite.
That was supposed to be a
Who sent you an
joke.
invite? Yeah, that was a joke. We didn't think you'd come. Why would I invite you to have a birthday party at my house?"
Yeah,
And he's just Pete's getting really uncomfortable and awkward. Like, and again, this discomfort that you get in these awkward social situations is throughout the whole movie. And then George finally breaks and says, "Yeah, I'm just fucking with you,"
right.
and that happens a ton in this movie.
Yeah, that is the theme of the movie.
Right,
I'm just fucking with
right.
you.
So, um, they all come in and he kind of gets back and sees all his friends, and he kind of like he's already set off in a really bad way where he's questioning what's going on. He feels uncomfortable,
Yeah,
and
they give him the best room, and they introduce him to Harry, who they met down at the pub.
right, they bring Harry, and and Pete is supposed to be the life of the party,
The
and
funny
Harry
guy.
now arrives. He's the funny guy. He comes in now. He's got a goose, and he's pantomiming with the goose, and he's putting the goose mouth beak in his mouth, and like everyone's cracking up, like, "Oh, fucking Harry's the best." And now Pete's like, "How the fuck do I fit in love with this dude?" And he's showing me up, and now everything I do is going to seem forced because I feel like I have to force it to be funny to live up to who I thought I once was. And the
Or
movie's just going to go out of control with that.
their expectations of me as the funny guy.
Yeah. Uh, Everything about this whole premise and the way that they handle it, to me, I thought was very good and entertaining. And I was interested to see what situations would come up as the story went along and how he would handle it and it, or how the characters would interact with him and each other, because it's well written, and to me the comedy is it's dry, it's British, and it's kind of biting and witty, and to me it's just it's entertaining more so than not. Like, so I know you say you don't like care for comedy, but I feel like the comedic element is entertaining in its own right.
I mean, look, the movie is entertaining. Laugh out loud funny, not so much. I definitely smiled a lot, like as I'm like
Yeah.
enjoying the scenes, um, mainly because of the dialogue, because there's really nothing else happening, right? Like, short on horror, because there isn't any. The suspense is like coupled with this tension, kind of makes you feel uneasy, especially if you're coming from the point of view of Pete,
Hmm.
which actually was like how I absorbed the movie,
Right.
um, which I hope was the point, was to be made to feel what Pete was feeling.
Hmm.
Um, because I think they if that like that being the case, like they definitely did what they set out to do. Um,
Yeah.
you know, as a horror comedy, I think I give this movie one score, but as like a as what I would call like a drama,
Right.
I would give it a different score.
Yeah, I know, and but
Yeah,
like, then that's the one thing that I will say whenever I got to the end, and I was like, well, I'm just rating it for what I just saw. I'm not
right,
gonna rate it under the lens of like, okay, it needs to tick box horror and comedy, and I'm rating it within that frame. I'm just
right.
like, how do I feel about it? What do I like about it? And I score it where I score it, because I thought that what it was doing, it did very well. But it's an interesting dilemma that you can kind of come across because the way that you are entering it and how you perceive it could be very different. It probably would be beneficial if you didn't know this was a horror comedy and you just went to watch it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, this is a good watchable movie that I would recommend to people, but I would never ever say that it was a horror comedy, and I
Right.
think because I wouldn't say that to them, that they would enjoy it.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody recommended this to me and told me this is a great horror comedy, I'd be like, that movie was fucking terrible, because I came at it from a different angle.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll talk about that again when we get to the end and when we score this thing. Where are we? Are we getting to Paul's or Pete's first funny story?
Yeah, because like they all meet and then they gather and study or wherever the fuck,
Yeah,
and
and
you start to
somebody's like,
introduce
Pete,
all the
you're the funny
characters.
guy. Tell us a funny story. And he's like, oh, well, something funny happened to me today. And he tells a story about meeting Norman, the guy who gave him directions, and he does this like North Country yarp kind of accent.
Yeah, like I was picturing Hot Fuzz
Yeah,
with the tall fucking guy.
yeah, and
Yorp.
then and the camera pans around the room, and eventually it gets to Pete, where you see over his shoulder, and there's Norman. Apparently, he's like the family's groundskeeper, and
Yeah.
and if you pay attention, so this was what the other smart thing about this movie. He told Pete that he would see him later. Like when he gave
Yeah.
Pete
I'll
directions,
see you at the
he goes,
party.
I'll probably see you later.
Yeah.
And it's like, why the fuck would this guy see him later? Oh, he's the groundskeeper for George's estate. Oh, I get it. Like, so,
Right, but like he was put on the spot, and it's like this whole thing where now you have to perform, and it's this
right,
performance pressure and anxiety. You want to impress your friends. You need to tell a funny story, and you can't fucking think of anything except this random weird thing that happened. So you're just gonna run with it, and you're not gonna think about who that is or why or anything.
right.
You're just get a story out there. I can't hesitate.
Yeah, and so now he has this weirdness with Norman through the whole film. But this
Right,
is
and he looks like a dick
and he looks like a
amongst his
dick.
friends.
And that's the theme of the movie. The uncomfortableness that you feel as the viewer is this guy Pete who's constantly like second guessing everything. He's
Hmm.
questioning everything that's happening around him. He's constantly putting his foot in his mouth because he's trying to be cool and impress people. And he's coming from this angle, this lens of like he wants to do the right thing and he wants to like be their friend, and because
Right.
these are his friends, he believes these are his friends. Um, but he never sees it that way. Like he tries even harder the longer the movie goes on because he
Yeah, he's
feels
overcompensating. Yep.
because he feels like he's losing them.
Right.
Um,
And
so
so he
anyway,
has to keep upping and escalating things.
yeah,
So right away, already in this by this evening, one of the other things that I think is a strong suit. This is an ensemble movie for the most part, because each of these characters, for the most part, are all going to be around each other throughout the course of the whole film. There's moments where they have peel offs where two are interacting or three are interacting, but for the most part, it's all of them on screen at the same time in these situations. And so uh, there's George and Fig. George is this is his house. He's sort of a wealthy son of whomever,
yeah.
uh,
He's married to Fig.
and married to Fig, who's posh. You know, they throw that word around through the movie. They're very posh.
Well, they're
There's
all posh, right? Like that's
yes,
kind of one
right.
of the jokes, right?
Where he kind of felt like a little bit of an outsider because of it, and Claire, who he had was in a relationship with way back then,
and then
who right at this scene we also find out, like right after this evening thing or during the evening thing, like she apparently attempted suicide right before he left, because of the
right,
breakup,
because of the breakup.
and she's still very much has feelings for him,
Well,
which
which we also don't know that they had been sleeping together until he started dating Sonia. So, besides dating in college and then her almost killing herself over the breakup, they were sleeping with each other casually before he
yes,
started dating Sonia.
until right before Sonia.
Yeah. So
So
which
that's Claire,
so
and then
there's some stuff there.
the other friend's Archie, who's the sort of the macho-y, preppy type playboy guy,
Right. He's definitely
single,
also the drug addict of the group.
the drug addict. Yeah, he's cokehead, and
Yeah.
he's great in that role because he's always like he has a devil may care attitude. There's no consequences. He's kind of flippant with most situations and things, but always just shit faced. He's like the Don Draper, like not Don Draper and like the cool collected part, but like just off the handle, like loving the party and like can snap into it and be where he needs to be, and go along with things. And then Harry, the guy that met at the pub, that's a local, um, who's just along for the ride, is now a fifth wheel, so to speak, in this weekend that
Yep.
Pete is thought he'd be with his friends, and now he has this obstacle to
And they make him sleep on the pullout in Pete's room.
right.
So it's like extra uncomfortable for Pete.
Yeah. So I'm just looking through all these different notes because I just did a couple notes of throughout the different things that I carried in the film. So it doesn't not super important. I want to say that the next thing that really some things happen, but uh they get to the next big thing that happens is the shoot, right? The next day.
Oh, we're gonna go on that far. There's a lot in between that and the shoot.
Okay, let's go. Let's
Well,
go.
well,
Take me in.
I think the only beat that's important is that he tells George that he's gonna propose to Sonia, and Sonia
Yeah,
and George
and
says don't tell Claire, and that's when he reveals to
finds out
Pete.
she's still wrapped up in you,
Right.
and Harry overhears this.
Harry overhears this, right?
Yeah,
So then later she's going to congratulate him, and now he's all paranoid. Who told Claire?
right.
Because he's afraid she's going to kill herself over him again, um,
Right.
or try to, uh, which is another theme which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. The one scene that I thought was really funny, also with Archie, like clues you into his absurdity, is whenever he wakes him up in the next morning, or it's the next morning, and Archie's in the room when they're getting ready for the shoot that they're gonna do, and he has the gun. He sneaks up on him. This is another thing where it like looks like a horror thing.
Yeah,
Pete's looking out the window at the car in the driveway, and it's the muddy, dirty car
right.
that the vagrant was in. Which again, this isn't really explained in a lot of ways.
Right. It's
I
just
don't even
there.
really remember how it does at the end.
Oh, well, I mean, it doesn't get explained. It just happens to be Harry's car.
Right.
Yeah,
It's just bizarre.
yeah.
So, uh,
Because we'll see
Art.
it again here in a minute, right?
Right. Well, yeah. The one thing is, yeah, he's looking out the window and he sees it and he's questioning it. It's the morning, and Archie sneaks up on him with the shotgun, and he's like pretends to like shoot him with it, and he's
Yeah,
like, "Get the fuck out! What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I got you good." He's like, "Well," he puts it under his chin.
yeah.
He's like, "It's not loaded. It's fine." And they start arguing, bickering, talking about what's gonna be going on with the hunt. And they go to leave the room,
And
and
he
Archie
pops it
uncocks the
open.
gun. He's like, "Oh shit, it was loaded."
It was.
It's
like
really good.
it's like I'll be
He's
fine.
so
It'll be fine. I could shoot a gun before I could read.
yeah, he's like, you can't read now.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. So like last year then.
yeah,
That was a good
right,
joke.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
So,
so
but is there a lot else that happens before this hunt? What other things are happening before the hunt?
before the hunt, okay, we're definitely having moments between Pete and Harry where
Yeah,
Harry is rubbing Pete the wrong way, and every time Pete says something fucking stupid, which is pretty often, where everybody kind of does an eye roll, he goes into his notebook and he scribbles something down, and
yeah, he's writing things
you're
down.
starting to go like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I think even just that first morning where they were all having breakfast or making breakfast, and they all make a plate, and they Harry has a plate, and everyone and Fig's got a plate, George's got a plate, um, but
and
Pete doesn't
if
get
he
a plate,
doesn't get
and
a plate,
he has to go make his own plate.
yeah, and he doesn't get eggs. Everybody's got eggs except for him because the eggs were made like for the three people that the breakfast was cooked
Yeah,
for, and he's just
yeah,
because he came down late, right?
right.
Um, it's Pete. Pete is. We'll talk about it later. All right.
Well, so that's the thing that this film is going to do. It layers and layers and layers all of these different scenes that put him at a disadvantage. It seems like everyone is really shitty, but he's also maybe like he's just interacting with it wrong, but you're trusting his narration throughout the film and the way that he's perceiving the events seem accurate. Like, yeah, that was fucked up that they didn't make him food. And the guy Harry writing the notes, or Harry coming to bed and snoring real fucking loud and pissing with
Yeah.
the door the light on,
Yeah.
and all these things. Like it's just all compiling this giant list of all this like frustrations of interactions with all of his friends that you're right there with them, where at some point something's gonna have to give, someone's gonna snap.
Right. Right.
I love how it builds in this
Yeah.
movie
So we go to the shoot where he doesn't want to go, but he's like, "Come on." Norman took went to
because
great
he's
lengths.
never shot before. Yeah,
Yeah, well, Norman's gone to great lengths to organize this for you. Let's go. So they all go, and he doesn't kill a single thing.
it doesn't hit anything. No,
Yeah.
everyone, and it's a hilarious montage because like people
Yeah.
are just shooting these birds out of the sky, and like it looks like they're really hunting these birds,
Yeah.
pheasant or whatever other game birds that they have, and they're all popping them. Fig's popping them.
Yeah. Faye's
George
doing it
is,
with
Archie is.
she's smoking a cigarette without using her hands the entire time,
Yeah,
killing these birds. Like it's
sort
just
of had
so
like a
easy.
Royal Tenenbaum vibe with
Yeah.
like Margot. So, and this is I didn't get this, but everyone is really pissed at him
For
because he
not
didn't
kill.
shoot a fucking thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Like, Norman puts a lot of work into this to do it. And,
Yeah.
but whenever you don't kill somebody, really, it's a slap in the face. It's like,
Yeah. It's like
and it's like,
he even says he spent a lot of money. Like he said, took a
yeah,
lot of time and money to put this hunt together
right. Yeah.
for
So
you.
he's now he's got to feel bad about that on top of the fact that he didn't do it because he didn't perform. He looks like a dickhead and he's not good at it. Like, it's embarrassing. And now they're making
Yeah.
him feel even worse about it. And he's like, oh, I think I got close. I think I got close to. He's like, yeah, you wounded it. Like, make him feel worse. Like now he's gonna
Yeah.
go struggle and fucking
Yeah.
die
Yeah. Yeah.
miserably. And all the while, it's either on the way there or on the way back. Archie is shooting rabbits out the window, and,
Yeah.
and they all have like their ear protection on. This
Yeah.
is a great scene.
So they get back, and I think they get ready for the next party, right?
Yeah, they're all gonna pregame or whatever, and but they're gonna go down to the pub
Yeah.
to meet, right?
Right. So the idea here is that um, Pete goes out to get into the car, and they're like fucking with him, like keep driving ahead, driving
Right.
ahead, driving ahead,
Yeah.
and then they just take
Standard
off,
gag.
and leave him there. And so he
Yeah.
tries to go back into the house, but Harry comes out and he's like, "Don't close the door," and the door closes, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, we'll walk down. I know a shortcut."
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Harry's still normal because all the things that Pete has been questioning and frustrated with him, Harry's just playing it even like it's fine, dude.
yeah,
Like no big deal. Like whatever. He's like cool. He doesn't have any animosity toward Pete throughout
right.
the film.
But he does. So Pete does know that, or does recognize Harry now. So now he even tells people that he recognizes him from somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, so we're getting down. They're going for the walk, and they get into a huge argument. Well, more like Pete just like accuses Harry of being this piece of shit that he's
Yeah, I think
not.
he's like, why did you tell
Yeah,
Claire that I was
yeah,
getting engaged? Because they find out that Claire knows, and he's pissed because Harry's the only other one that could have told, because George didn't.
right. Because George
And so
wouldn't.
that's what he
Right,
believes. And so
right,
he's pissed off at Harry. The fuck are you doing? You're ruining it. You're ruining my weekend. You need to fuck off. You need to
right.
get the fuck out
It's
of
my
here.
birthday. Fuck off.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll find my own way. He starts walking. Flashes a few hills later. He's like halfway down a hill, and you look back, and it's Harry, and he pulls an axe out and starts chasing him down the hill in slow mo,
Yeah.
and and he's just running, 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 running for the door, and he gets into the pub, and then Harry does like a fake out chop, and everybody screams surprise, and Harry's like, they made me do it. They put me up to it.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Sorry, man.
I'm not
So
gonna.
another
They're like, we
another
had to get there early so we could
uh,
set up for you.
yeah,
Sorry, but
sorry, yeah.
surprise.
Yeah, sorry about the shit. Also, like another misdirect in a series of
Yeah.
misdirects where once again, like it doesn't pay off. Like it just doesn't. And
Well,
it doesn't
it's
in the way you expect it to.
right because you're like, okay, great. The
It's
horror's gonna
the
come.
horror's gonna come.
He is a fucking maniac, and he's gonna start to antagonize, and now there's gonna be tension. Like something's gonna happen there, and it's like, nope, it's just a joke.
That's just a joke. Yep. So they partied down. They rented out the whole bar, so there's no other extras, which is a nice way to make a movie with no budget.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair.
I was like, oh, sweet, nice play, guys. Um, what happens here at the bar? I mean,
A few
obviously,
different things, but one of the things that like does he's I think talking to Fig, and she's telling him about some things. This happened already
oh, this
with another
happens
scene, but here's
twice
another
in the
scene.
bar. This happens twice in
Yeah,
the bar. Yeah, yeah.
he starts to bring up Pete's backstory of what he's been doing the past several years. Is he's really become a humanitarian. He's
Right.
worked with refugees in, I assume, Africa. He might have mentioned Africa. I can't remember, Uganda. I think he might have said at one point. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter. A a needed area for humanitarian aid, and he keeps talking about it like unnecessarily too much, like
Yeah.
trying to say like how important and philanthropic or useful he is in this kind of way that's meaningful, and his friends don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
They always say something snide or short or grating about it, or just like completely
Yeah.
change topics when
In
he starts to get into it.
in this bar sequence, he gets cut off twice telling the same story. He says when I was working with that refugee kid, and I noticed the first time he learned, and that's about as far as you get into the story. But it's the same story because he says this, like he says learned again. The first time he learned, and then he gets cut off a second time
Yeah.
when he's talking to somebody else. I thought both of those were pretty funny. They were good.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it was the night before where he's thinking and annoyed with Harry, and Archie is like, Pete, are you listening to me? And he's like, yeah, what? Yeah. And Archie's like, I'm talking about this business proposal. Like, what do you think? Is it a good idea? And he's like, yeah, explain it to me again. He wasn't listening, and Archie was like
Right.
trying to talk to him. What was the idea? It was to get wealthy people that want to do
To do crazy shit.
weird, crazy, weird shit,
Yeah.
and we connect them to one another to go do their crazy, weird shit together. For people that are too normy to want to do the crazy,
Right,
weird shit.
right. Because rich people are going to have normal friends, and the normal friends aren't going to be able to go or to afford the crazy weird
Right.
shit that rich people want to do. So it's like a social meeting up site or app where crazy
Yeah,
rich
for
people
people
can
with the
do.
means
Yeah,
to do crazy, weird things,
yeah.
and he's like, I don't, and in the
So,
context of like what he does, he doesn't see like I think that's when he brings up his refugee stuff even,
yeah,
as like that I'm interested in this, or this is what I want to bring to the world or something.
yeah,
So it doesn't go well. And then the other thing is he forces Archie forces Pete to go do a bump in the bathroom, and he's like, I'm
right.
not gonna do this. What am I gonna do? I can't. I'm not. And so, but he's like, no, fuck it. I need something to snap me out of this,
Yeah,
and to become Skippy
yeah.
again.
To
So
go
he does it.
Skippy. So he does it.
He does it.
He's immediately cut to him telling that story to somebody in the
Yeah,
hallway,
right. Just
where he gets
manic, talking
interrupted.
too
Yeah, yeah,
much,
yeah,
can't stop talking.
yeah,
You only talk about what you would do, and so at the conclusion of that bar scene, Archie is looks at his baggie and it's all fucking gone. He's like, "What the fuck, Pete? You used it all. You spent it all. You did whatever with it." He's like,
yeah,
"This is mad for the party." And Harry's like, "No, man, no, man. It was I spilled it back.
yeah,
It wasn't him." And then Harry goes to Pete. He's like, "You owe me."
yeah.
because he's like, yeah, I was covering for you.
yeah, and we definitely know that Pete didn't use it all, right? We
No,
watch him
yeah, he
take
didn't.
one
It's just
bump.
Archie
Plus,
is
like
just
he barely even drinks this whole weekend. Like he has like one or two drinks while they're
right.
partying, and then he goes to bed early, like every night too. So like he
Uh
is
huh.
definitely not living up to the expectation, maybe the expectation he has for himself.
For himself, yeah, and so yeah, that's the coke at the bar. I think they do the bar before the shoot. I think
Yeah,
technically because it's
maybe.
like the but same thing. Uh oh, and before they go to the shoot and before the bar, it's the morning after the first night, and they say, yeah, Claire's gone. Claire left. She didn't feel comfortable or whatever, and so she just left.
Right. And they
And he's like, wait, what the fuck?
he assumes that it's because of the engagement.
Yeah, because the engagement news that she fucking
Yeah.
left, and now he's like
So that
stressing about it, and that's part
so
of what drove
right.
him to confront Harry.
But when they get back from
Uh,
the shoot, she's
she's
there,
she's back now,
and
and
she's he's like, "Where were you?" She's like, "I went and had lunch with my mother-in-law or mother or something
right.
weird.
It's
I
like
don't."
this idea that he's like hearing one thing, and like it's truthful. Claire left, but like they just didn't give him the context to understand like she's gonna be right back or whatever. Like
Yeah,
they left out some of the information, and his mind filled the
the
void
void.
there with
Yeah,
bad thoughts because he's already ruminating in a negative way of
right.
what does that mean.
Yeah, he. I mean, there's so much paranoia and anxiety from this main character. It's constant, right? And like,
Yeah.
so and it just keeps escalating. It gets worse and worse and worse. But Sonia is on her way.
Yeah,
As
she
she
just shows
was
up
delayed.
because like they're like, "Hey, Pete, there's a girl here that says
Here's
she's your girlfriend, but that can't be true because she's kind of hot or something like that." She's
she's way too fit.
yeah, she's way too fit.
She's way too
Uh,
fit.
yeah,
So then it goes right to the parlor, I think, and they're all having drinks and laughing and getting to meet Sonia, and they all kind
and
of
they all love Sonia. Yeah,
one at a time. They all kind of pull him aside to tell him how much they love Sonia.
hmm
Um, but then of
and this is
course,
like in that evening,
yeah.
right?
But then
Yeah,
yeah, but then of course he's in the room and he looks outside, and she's talking to Harry, and they hug, and he's like, "What the fuck," you know? And
yeah.
he
Because I think
goes
he was upstairs. Either he goes upstairs or he was already upstairs going through Harry's shit
going through Harry's stuff, right? Um, earlier, maybe this is where he checks the phone and he takes a picture of, like, there's a little girl on his lock screen.
on Harry's phone. Yeah, on the
Yeah, he
lock
takes a
screen.
picture of the little girl, but this is where he grabs the notebook.
Yeah, he
And he
grabs the
flips
notebook
through the
with all the.
notebook that's been scribbled in, and it's like he really likes talking about refugees. Next page, doesn't know who this famous artist is from earlier in the night when Sonia
Yeah,
was first in
pretended
there.
to know who Chris O'Feely was.
Yeah.
And I knew Chris O'Feely because from my history with
Right.
art, I knew who they were talking about, and so that was kind of a fun, neat little nod because
Yeah.
he's modern, but it's like you kind of have to be into art to know him. He's famous, but still.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, he sees all that and he's like, "Fuck."
Yeah. So he goes to find Sonia now, and well, first he runs into Harry, and Harry's grabbing beers for him and Sonia, and he just like yells at him, a little freak out. Then he goes
Yeah,
outside to Sonia. He's like, come with me, come around here." It's like all my friends are fucking with me. Everyone's being so mean, and like, and so this is it. So this is the second time he's had a little freak out, because he had a freak out with George, because I believe George is like the most level-headed of the friends, or at least the
yeah,
closest, seemingly the closest to Pete. Where
right.
he says like, "Is everyone being mean to me for some reason?" And so they had that like half conversation. But now with Sonia, she's like, "All my friends are being mean. I'm having a terrible time. My birthday's ruined. Fuck this Harry guy. He's weird." Um, and Sonia's like, "You're just overreacting. Let's put you down for a nap, right?"
Yeah,
Um, so she does, and then this is like another late night party that he wakes up for, and he comes down,
yeah.
right?
He wakes up. He
Is this the
yeah.
big party? Is this the end?
This is the last big party, I
This is the
believe.
last
Yeah,
big party. Okay, so now everyone is dressed as their favorite Pete, and they all have
yeah, yeah.
different weird outfits on. Um, the Claire is wearing this like yellow shirt that says "Rave
Yeah.
every day" or
Yeah.
something like that.
That eat, sleep,
Eat,
rave,
sleep, rave. Yeah,
repeat,
hey, repeat. Yeah,
repeat.
and she's got like Mardi Gras beads on.
Yeah, it's like a day glow yellow,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool.
Um, and then this is the surprise, and they're all sitting in like a half circle, and he's at the main chair, and right away my first thought is, oh, okay, it's a roast, and it was a roast. I
Yeah.
was right, except the one thing we learned about Pete is that he can't take a fucking joke. Uh, so Harry comes out, and he's got a bag over his head, which is
Sort
weird.
of like a weird shower cap type thing, but
Yeah,
it's like a plastic bag over his hairline, holding all
yeah,
of his hair in.
yeah. And he introduces not Pete.
Yeah.
And so some other character who we don't know comes out, and he kind of looks like Pete, and he's tall and lanky, and he starts delivering these one-liners as Pete, and all the friends ask questions, and not Pete answers them in a very Pete way, and everybody has a good laugh at Pete's expense, except for Pete, who thinks this is really fucked up.
Yeah, he's just getting really upset.
He's
Everything
just
is because it's like it's a roast and like he's not taking the
he's not
uh
taking the jokes.
and if you could hear them like yeah, it's kind of fucked up. They're hilarious.
Yeah, this is definitely the funniest scene in the movie. The not
Yeah.
Pete character definitely knocks it out of the park.
um and so
So Pete has a freak out, and this is where he actually has a meltdown,
yeah.
and he starts pointing out, his friends being shitty to him, and he points out Harry, and I know who you are, Harry. Well, because the friends say maybe that's not even the surprise. The roast wasn't the surprise. The surprise is who's Harry, and that's
Yeah.
when the music stops, and Pete's like,
Yeah.
I know who Harry is, and he tells his
He's like he
story.
finally figured it out. Yeah.
He tells this story about when he was 15. Him and his best friend at the time were making prank calls to a girl down the street who was afraid of dogs because they were barking at him. What's
Yeah.
his name? Not
Harry
Pete.
and
No,
not
Harry and
Pete.
not Pete were barking at him as it gets to this.
Yeah,
And
it's all hiding, and everyone's like kind of laughing. And they keep barking, barking, barking,
yeah,
and they break. He flips out and calms things down. And he's like, now he tells the story of
tells the
why
story
how he remembers them. Yeah,
because she was kind of slow, so they were picking on her because she'd freak out, and then she killed herself by wrapping a plastic bag around her head, and the only person who knew that it was them was the older brother. And
right.
she goes,
And
"That's who Harry is. Harry's this girl's older brother." And he looks at her and is like, "I'm so sorry." Harry's just like, "You don't have to apologize, because that's not who I am." Like, and
and
a nice long
he goes,
pause.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I'm I'm Plank.
Plank. So Plank
And
is a story from the beginning of the movie where there's this weird kid who was into wizards who brought a wheel of cheese to a party. And that's all you hear about Plank is that story.
right, you hear that story, but they all and Pete is like, I don't know Plank. And they're
Yeah,
like, what are you talking about? You guys were like great friends. It was like, or like that you guys would always pal around, or he was always part of the group. He was in
yeah,
the group. What are you talking about? But he doesn't remember him.
yeah. Uh, so he's Plank. Um, and he's like, "Well, were you barking at me?" And it's like, "Cause of the dog thing, right?" And then he's like, "Well,
Yeah.
what about the bag on your head?" It's like, "Cause of the cocaine bag from earlier tonight." And he's just like, just doesn't believe that he's wrong, right? Like, so not only
Yeah.
does Pete like not get it and doesn't take these jokes and isn't a good sport about like palling around with his old friends, he also doesn't believe that he's wrong. Like he has to like admit fault and to grow and to move on, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, so it basically cuts right from that to him and Sonya driving home.
Well, he also says that that night, like he's like, "What the hell? You told Claire about the
Oh,
fact that I was gonna be that I was gonna be
that's what they
proposing to Sonia, and you ruined it, and everything's fucking falling apart." And she's like,
so
"You
just
were
like,
gonna propose to me?"
oh
And
right.
so it's like all these shitty things are
And
happening,
then
and
another then he says another thing about Claire, and Sonia goes, "Wait, why didn't you want Claire to know?"
yeah,
Like
like what is
accusatory,
like,
and he's like,
and it's just builds
"Fuck,"
like
and it
everything
just
like
builds.
it's all
All right,
it's
and he like
snowballing. It's
he
all
like
fucking insane.
he like breaks down and starts crying, and Harry or Plank is like, "This guy's having a full on nervous breakdown," and he says that he forgot to take his or he stopped taking his medication.
Yeah,
And they're like, "You're off your meds," and he's like,
you're over, man.
It's a fucking herbal supplement."
Yeah,
Which,
Archie's like, yeah, I put one of the, I
if,
put a perker in there.
yeah,
Do you still have it? I kind of can I have that back actually?
yeah,
He's like, no, I fucking stomped.
I stomped him. And then they're like, "You're off your medication," and he's like, "It's fucking herbal supplement," which is funny because through the whole movie, they've been giving him shit for taking herbal supplements, and he's like, "No, I really need them." And then here at the end, they're like shocked to find out he's off his meds, and he's
Yeah,
like, "It's just an herbal," He's
diminishing
so
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly doing what they were
So
doing to
yeah,
him.
it's just that everything falls apart, and so yeah, then the last scene it cuts to him
Yep.
and Sonia on the drive back,
The
and it's
drive
just
back,
silence.
silence, a lot of silence. He finally breaks the silence with, "Look, I get it. If you don't want to marry me, or if you don't even want to date me anymore," and she's like, "Yep." And then she like there's a lot more silence, and then
Yeah,
she just like laughs out loud, and it's like, "Of course I'll marry you, you fucking idiot." And
yeah,
he's like, "What?" She's like, "I was just kidding." And
yeah.
like he like doesn't believe it at first. "Are you mean it? You were just joking?" And she's like, "You know something, Pete? You can't take a fucking joke." And
And
credits.
yeah, and he's just left and he looks out the window.
Yeah.
The other thing that she does makes him shittier is because he's talking about the weekend. I realized, and she's like not along about not wanting to marry him, uh, and she says he apologized for all the shit that he did that weekend, how awful. Oh, because the other thing that happens at the party is he fucking takes a vase and he smashes it on Harry's head.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" So he's saying like, "I'm so
Yeah.
sorry about everything that I did this weekend," and she's like, "Well, it's not the worst thing you did."
Right, right. It's not the worst thing you've done. And that's when she laughs. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then she laughs. So, uh, for me, it's not a horror. You know,
It is
everything
not
about
a
this,
horror.
like the everything that's horror about it, they play up to just subvert your expectation and to pull the rug out from underneath you and change directions. And it's great. It's refreshing. It's unique. It's cool to see them double down so hard on just being straight about the paranoia and misreading of social situations and the pressures that one feels in your own cliques and the people that you think you know or that you care about, and how if you get too wrapped up in your head, what happens to you. And I love that it did all of that. And so whenever I think about how I would feel about this, I loved so much of it. If I detach myself from kind of trying to consider a horror comedy as a film, for me, this lands at a 7 because of all of the things that it was doing. If I had to rate it as a strict comedy horror, I probably would say for comedy horror, it's like a 3 or a 4 because it's not a comedy horror.
Yeah.
But as a film, it's a 7. So for me, I'm giving it a 7.
Yeah. I do the exact same thing here. I definitely give it a 6 as a film. Um, I would recommend it. It's interesting. It's fresh. It's not a horror comedy, but it's a good movie. It that shows me some things that I've never seen movies do before. So kudos to the writing team. Um, and as a horror comedy, I give it a 3. So I mean, take that as you will. Like as a movie, it's a solid 6 for me. Like I would definitely recommend it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but
It's
def
weird because, it needs a genre to help have an an avenue to reach an audience. It can't be too ambiguous. It needs
Yeah,
to be
eh,
somewhere. And so like I see why it would do that, but
I
comedy sure, but is it just
yeah,
drama? Is it
yeah,
mystery or suspense?
yeah.
Comedy suspense?
I would maybe call it like dramedy suspense
Yeah,
or comedy drama suspense if you can give it all three.
right.
Like suspense is, I think, the word because like they even use the music for the fake outs, and
Uh-huh.
there are a lot of fake outs. They even use the music to like create a fake out in a dialogue heavy scene, just to like make you feel tense and uneasy, like to add to the anxiety that you get from horror movie music, while something is not going Pete's way, and they're bringing the strings up nice and high, so you're just like, oh my God, and nothing happens. They just cut to the next scene, but it's like
Yeah.
this dialogue that's affecting Pete negatively, and they're definitely pushing that kind of horror movie
Hmm.
suspense soundtrack on you as a viewer.
Hmm.
So they did a lot of interesting things. I just was definitely like it was so misrepresented that
Right.
I wish I could have watched it from a different lens.
Yeah, yeah, I understand that. And I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know, for whatever reason, it didn't hang me up, and I was just like I mean, I think I just wanted to have fun, because for me I didn't react to Truth or Die the way that I wanted to, and so because I watched Truth or Die and then I think I pretty much watched them back to back. I was just so excited to have fun or more fun, and this had some jokes right away where I was like, okay, I want this feeling to keep going. I'm getting behind it, and I don't give a fuck about anything that's happening. And so, as frustrating as the lack of horror was, it was still extremely captivating without it. So, it's a unique film. I'll say that. I can't recall something. I can't compare it to anything very similar. Uh, I don't know what else is in that universe.
Right. So you want to talk about like British horror comedies? Like I was
Right.
so psyched to watch this movie. Severance, Shaun of the Dead, Lesbian Vampire Killers, Grabbers, Hot Fuzz, even World's End. American Werewolf in London. British horror comedies with dry humor. You know, they're phenomenal. And Severance is probably one of my favorites. And that was the first thing I thought of when
Mm-hmm.
when I thought of, ooh, all my friends hate me. British horror comedy. Severance was the first thing I thought of. Wow. Like, is it not like, yeah, so I'm gonna say, wow, was I disappointed, but I don't mean it in the way that, right, this movie wasn't good. I mean it in the way that, like, I really wanted to see, something like that list of movies I just named.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Severance. So, um, years past, I used to do like a horror club with a group of people,
Right.
and we would do it would be a yearly thing. We would have a party in early October, and the way that it was all guided is we would pick four genres of horror film. So monster movie, foreign, zombie, um, art house or indie, and each one of us would then spend the next year watching all kinds of horrors in that genre to then bring our best representation of that genre to our event. In one year, someone had gore, something that's just like it. This is a gore fucking horror film, and they brought the movie Severance, and there's gore in Severance, but it's not over the top a gore movie at all.
Definitely not. No.
And like there's lots of drinking and just joking around and having fun. But usually we'll watch the movie and then we will talk about what we thought or what we were going for, what was important, why is this emblematic of the genre film. And this person got up there and they're talking about Severance and like they're shit faced and they're just like everyone knows that this was not a gore movie, and we're just like, I mean, it was a good movie, but it's not a. And they go, there was great gore. I mean, and a lot of it, was like implied gore. Like, what the fuck is implied gore? That's not gore.
Yeah.
Because there's a scene where the fucking rocket goes up and it hits the plane. Like, that's not implied gore. That's just it's a
No.
dumb gag. Like
Yeah.
so, so whenever I hear Severance, for me it's always like it's fine. I'm not a big fan of it, but I can't help but always think about that moment where someone brought it as a representation of
You didn't like
clearly
Severance?
it was fine. It's like
Uh,
I probably a 5 or a 6. I think if I were to think back at it,
oh,
I'd
sure,
have to
sure.
rewatch it to consider. It's not like I'd say like yeah, it's representative of British horror comedy.
Have you seen, by the way, Lesbian Vampire Killers?
No, you mentioned it, and I was like,
All
oh,
right.
that's one I don't know anything about.
Yeah, yeah. So this is not a like cheesy exploitation kind of movie that you might think it is. It was 2009. It stars James Corbin
Yeah.
before he was super
Oh,
famous, right? No, no, no.
okay.
He's great because he plays the Nick Frost character. So he's a
Yeah.
fucking disgusting vulgar slob in this movie.
Okay.
He's like the guy who takes the hits, you know what I mean? He's
Yeah.
not yeah, he's like not a good redeemable character at all. He's not the James Corbin that he would be today. Like
Right.
whereas because of his
He's
talk
unwatchable today,
well, well, you know what
dude.
I mean.
Okay. Right. Okay. But so did you see what he did after the Will Smith thing happened?
No.
Have you seen Encanto,
No.
the new Disney
Yeah,
Pixar?
yeah, yeah. I want to see it, but I haven't seen it.
There's a song in it that you might have heard people singing or talking about. Said, "We don't talk about Bruno."
No.
He spoofed the song after the Will Smith thing happened, and he's like, and they did a full on play of the song, performance piece of the song. We don't talk about Jada,
Oh.
and like insert her name into the lyrics and talk about everything about it, and it was a cringeworthy fucking thing.
Oh. Did he get canceled?
No, we didn't get canceled because people fucking love him. Suck his
Uh.
stupid fat cock. Christ. Ah. Anyways,
Okay. Well.
so he's good in this other movie,
Yeah, he's great. He's great because he was trying hard because nobody knew who he was.
right?
Or
Yeah,
I definitely didn't know who he was in 2009.
sure.
And yeah, it's a B movie. Like who know?
Yeah.
I don't know his catalog, but it could be one of his earliest works, and
Mm,
it's definitely worth it for the horror comedy genre.
cool.
All right,
All right.
so I think that wraps up episode 18. Stay tuned to the Twitter to see what we discuss next week.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Go to Etsy, buy some T-shirts. I'm repping the X shirt today.
Yeah, I got my Sebastian Stan fresh T-shirt
Yep.
here.
One goddamn fucked up horror picture. Uh,
Hey, quick, funny comment about that. I was talking to a guy recently, and he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, Ving Rhames," and I'm like, "Wait, what? What'd you say?" He's like, "Yeah, it was Ving Rhames." I was like, "No, no, it wasn't." I'm like looking around, like no one else is around. I'm like, "Wasn't Ving Rhames, dude?"
yeah, no. Did you see X, or you just
It's
think
fucking
Big
great.
Ram said that?
They didn't really see it.
Oh,
They happened to catch something or a clip or something and just saw the guy's face and he was like, "Yeah, it was Ving Rhames, right?" It was fucking hilarious because it's just
no,
like it's an innocent, honest mistake, but in the context of things, it's like it's that's a
fucking
trope. It's
yeah,
funny.
fucking
It's an
upstate New
innocent
York.
mistake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Well,
all right, man.
thank you guys for watching. For the podcast for the recently deceased, I am Nate Roberts,
I am Rodney Godek. Take care.
and we'll see you next week.